Hello.
Hello, hello. Hello, V. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I love the little sound that it did when it walked us into the podcast. That was very cool.
Yeah, that was all calculated. Just kidding. It wasn't. But yes, it sounded really nice.
I bet it was calculated. But yeah, guys, welcome back to Approaching Your Future with your hosts, Dana and Victor. Um, as always, we take steps towards your goals. And today we're going to have a really cool topic because we're going to be talking about Marathon Monday history and culture. And the reason why it's cool is because Marathon Monday is taking place this Monday, next Monday, actually. It's going to be a holiday, and the Boston Marathon is going to happen. So, V, what do you know about the Boston Marathon?
Oh, I know a lot of things. I do remember when I first moved to Boston. I think it was like back 2014, 2013. I heard a lot about the Boston Marathon bombing. Um, I know it was a very sad event because a few people lost their lives, and it's still ongoing, right? Like, I know that they're still prosecuting the bomber, and although it was a very sad date, it's definitely also a date that reminds a lot of people from New England about resilience. So it's very interesting. So yeah, like there's a lot to it, Donna, but like we can definitely get more to it.
Definitely, V, definitely. So as you see here on the screen, you're seeing the first Boston Marathon, right? And as Victor was saying, there's a lot of important history that happens with the Boston Marathon, right? The first Boston Marathon was actually inaugurated by an U.S. Olympic team manager, and a member, and he was an Olympian called John Graham. He was inspired to organize and conduct a marathon in the Boston area. And so he kind of partnered with different businesses, and specifically a businessman called Herbert Holton. And then I think it is 1896. I'm going to tell you right now, actually, the first Boston Marathon. And I think if I'm not mistaken, it's like 1897. Yes, exactly. April 19th, 1897 is when the first Boston Marathon takes place. Um, and that's how it starts, right? And then later on in 1924, the course was lengthened like 26 miles, and it became a much larger race.
Yeah, it's interesting because also like I think one of the reasons why the Boston Marathon is so iconic, it's because it takes place in Boston, of course, and just like New York and all in other places in United States, like New York, Los Angeles, like Boston is a huge city. It has a lot of history. I mean, like that's kind of one of the cribs of the United States, right? Like where everything was actually formed, idealized. So I do see that there's a strong connection between the Boston Marathon and the sense of identity of a lot of American people, even more a lot of New Englanders. But that's my take on it, right? I don't know, like, what do you think, Dana? Like, do you think that one of the reasons why the Boston Marathon is such a huge, event, is it because it's in Boston, or is it because I don't know? Like, is there anything else that we might be missing, or?
Yeah, I think that's very interesting point. Be like, I think that because it is in Boston, and Boston has such a big like traffic within like cities, cultures, education, technology. I think that as you like, which is probably what you're thinking. That's probably one of the reasons why it takes place in Boston. But I think that apart from that, Boston tends to be a really big sports city, a huge sports city actually. We see the Patriots, we see
The
what are the name of
the
the
Bruins?
Bruins,
Yeah, the Celtics too, right?
the Celtics too. So we have the three different sports which we are at top of the league,
Right.
right?
So,
So
we cannot forget the Red Sox.
we cannot forget the Red Sox. So we got like four different like so Celtics, we got the Red Sox, we've got the Pats. So like we've got many sports that we are at the top of the league as a sports city, So I think that it that does bring in a lot of importance to it.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that the Boston Marathon has been going on for so many years, And it's interesting because it literally stops the city. If you guys are, in Boston during that day, and you try to go downtown, you will definitely notice that it's not going to be easy for you to access the downtown area. They do tend to close a lot of streets. They do tend to change a lot the traffic. You will see a lot of police around the streets because of what has happened in the past, and honestly, also because of what's currently going on in the United States. So it is a very special day, and you will see a lot in the streets. So if you're the type of person that observes, I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity to learn more about the American culture as well as the history of the Boston Marathon, to know the sense of pride and the sense of competition that there is in Boston. It's so alive. You will see all that. But here, I'm gonna use this, Dana, to do a take on, use this opportunity also to, if you are a student, to join our we have an activity going on, right? We have a photo contest, and it would definitely be really interesting if you guys, kind of joined, paid attention at all these details, and take pictures, capture, talk about it, let us know, and at the same time show a bit of your English skills on elaborating why the Boston Marathon is so important to Boston. Maybe if you write that to us, you might get a prize.
That is true, definitely. Do join the photo contest, guys. It's gonna be going all through Monday and it's gonna close at midnight. So definitely join it for a chance to get $25. And we just want to see you guys capture the essence of this holiday, because it is part of the culture of the US and part of the culture that we're living in Boston. So I think that's pretty cool. And I wanted to give a couple of other facts that I was seeing about the Boston Marathon, guys. Here's one fun fact. The first woman to run to the front was called Roberta Gibb. I'm going to read a bit of her story. So, Roberta Gibb was the first woman to run the full Boston Marathon in 1966. What did she do? Roberta, who did not run with an official race number during any of the 3 years, 66 to 68, that she was the first female finisher, hid in the bushes near the start until the race began. So that's what she would do. She would hide in the bushes near the start, and then when the race began, she would run. But she did not have a number. She did not have an official race number. In 1967, Catherine Switzer did not clearly identify herself as a female on the race application and was issued a BIB number, which is the BAA. It was before the organization that sponsored this marathon. And they could not remove her from the race after that, and she also ran that race. But the first person to run the race as a woman was Roberta Gibb, who was hid in the bushes and then run it. And that's to show you that Boston is a place where people take risks and people speak up and put themselves forward, and that's why Boston is such an innovative city. I think that's the beauty of Boston. But not only that, I saw a couple of other milestones that are pretty cool from the Boston Marathon. For example, in 1898, Tuesday, April 19, 1898, because the Boston Marathon has always been traditionally the 19th of April. And then it happened like this for years and years and years. As April 19th was declared like Pat's Day, right? I mean, it was declared a holiday for Maine and Massachusetts. And then after that, they just changed it to the third Monday of April. And then what happened, guys? 2020 came around and the marathon was held online. And last year we had the marathon held in October instead of April. And so this time around, it's going to be the first year since the pandemic in which we're going to be able to run in person and at the time where the race usually takes place, right? The third Monday of April. But back to the fact I wanted to say, in 1898 of April 19, in its second running, the Boston Marathon welcomed its first foreign champion when 22-year-old Boston College student Ronald McDonald of Nova Scotia won the race in 2 hours and 42 minutes. So This was, isn't that so cool? And this is the second running of the Boston Marathon. It means that the marathon had opened for the first time the year prior in 1897, as I said. In the second marathon, the second one, the winner was a 22-year-old college student, an international college student. Doesn't that tell you what the spirit of Boston is? Just like simply, isn't that so beautiful? I think that's really, really cool, guys. So that's
That's a
something to
yeah.
keep in mind.
Go Ronald McDonald. I mean, that's like really really interesting, and that's like guys, like I was saying, that's how the value of the Boston Marathon is kind of like created throughout time, right? Like when these really fun, amazing historical facts are happening, I mean, it doesn't only corresponds to the whole history of the marathon. It is related to the history and the cultural status of the United States, and it's also related to the way people live their lives. You know what I mean? So that's like really interesting.
I think that's really cool and beautiful the way you put it, V. And just saying, guys, this is not the same Ronald McDonald from your Happy Meals, okay? This is a man from Nova Scotia, okay? This is a real story. So definitely, as V said, that is the essence of Boston and the beauty of what the society can provide when we're all genuinely uh, opening that space for each other, you know. Um, so apart from that, we talked a bit about the history of Boston, of the Boston Marathon. As we know, there's a bit of a darker history when we go into 2013, when the Boston Marathon bombing takes place, and unfortunately it ends up killing three people, one of them being a student, an international student as well. And so it is important for us to understand that this is something that we do need to remember, and we do celebrate the Boston Marathon every Monday, every year, right? But we also need to take into account that sometimes for other people this day is a bit harder, you know. So I think it's important to know all the history that takes place during the Boston Marathon and Marathon Monday.
Yeah, I mean, like I totally agree too, Donna. And like I think one thing that I wanted to add, it's like definitely a day of, paying respect to the authorities of Boston, right? I mean, the police, firefighters, and people that gave support at that time, because at that moment when there was a bombing, it definitely a lot of things kind of went through a lot of people's heads, as you don't know the reason behind such an act, so imagine for you as a normal citizen, you're just depending on those people. So definitely it's a day to be thankful for those who worked to protect us and to capture whoever was behind that whole thing. But definitely very interesting, and that goes back to how I said, guys, like going to the Boston Marathon in the day, you will see so much police activity. It's crazy, but don't be intimidated. Just see that as it's a good thing. You're safe, and they're part of the history of the marathon itself.
Exactly. But now moving on to a bit of a funner part, the culture of Marathon Monday. What is your perspective on the culture of Marathon Monday, V? Like, do you, because of course we have different experiences, so I want to see what you've experienced here.
Well, like I do remember the first time I ever went. I was still in high school, and it's really interesting. It's like a huge party in the streets. If you go to the front of the Prudential, which is near the finish line, you will get to see a lot of fun. People, the runners will be getting there at specific times. So if you want to see whoever won the first place, you have to be there early. But just know there will be a lot of people. So if there's something that I remember is that there's so many people there, and it's like that ongoing party. You see families, you see tourists too a lot, and you see a lot of people kind of like cheering and clapping hands and giving support to whoever is running, no matter if you're the first or last. It's like they will give support. I also remember something that I did. I think it was in 2018. I went to the Boston Marathon during the day. It was a rainy day. And when I went back, I saw on the news that someone was gonna actually arrive, the last person to arrive in the Boston Marathon would get there around 6, 7, 8 p.m. or something like that, super late. And I was like, that's so interesting. Like this guy is so determined. Like he has so much passion to go for the marathon. And I found out the guy actually he's paralyzed and he's been doing the Boston Marathon for a while on wheelchairs. So that was like wow, like this is what I'm talking about. That's the spirit, and that's what you can see when you go there. You can feel, it's really cool.
V, that's actually such a cool thing to bring up because funny enough, the Boston Marathon became the first major marathon to include a wheelchair division competition. And it recognized Bob Hall in 1975. So that is like the Boston Marathon does have that history of being one of the first like sports events that tries to be as inclusive and as accessible as possible to all types of population. So I think that's a beautiful thing to bring up, you know?
No, thank you. Yeah, I do have that, in my memory because it's again resilience, no matter your situation, you start something, you finish, and you can take that example. It's in so many ways in life, so look more for stories like this. I mean, like I'm all ears for things like that, like stories of success, of overcoming challenges. Like you see a lot of
That is true. That is true. On my end, I never really went to see the Boston Marathon in person, and I should have. I kind of ashamed I haven't actually, but I should. But the culture in like Latin kids going to college in Boston, a lot of the culture around there's a big culture around Marathon Monday, and it's very interesting because I never really joined these parties, but during Marathon Monday they would have like basically like a pub crawl throughout the whole day, but it was like in houses, like it was like house parties like, per se, but from like 9 a.m. till the end of the day, and then you finish at a club or something. So and that was every marathon Monday, and that's like a common practice. Like if you talk to any other like Hispanic person, like Latino in another like college, they usually like take part in this events, in these parties. And I think it's very interesting, like everyone kind of celebrates the marathon in their own way. Communities celebrate them in different ways, and sometimes they come together to celebrate it. And I think that's the beautiful thing about both the marathon and Boston. So I think it's pretty cool to see that, happening. And I should definitely like my dream would be to do this marathon, at least like half of it, or something along those lines. Like I think that as a goal in life to like run a proper marathon like this one, it would be like, I guess it takes a lot of dedication. That's what I notice about marathons. Is they take a lot of dedication.
Oh yeah, like I mean, like it's months of training to start. I've never ran a marathon, guys. I mean, like I love running, although I don't look like I love running right now. I am a
Don't say
huge.
that.
I love running. That's my therapy. But if I can tell you something, I could run 8, 10, maybe 11 miles, but I cannot run a full marathon. And I know that it requires a lot of like, preparation. And if you know in kilometers, I mean, it's like more than 23 kilometers, I think. So that requires a lot of preparation, to be quite honest with you. Like some people prepare for months, sometimes they prepare for the whole year. There are people too that they make a living out of winning marathons. I mean, I know that back in Brazil, in my city, we have a few marathons that they give prizes in form of money, and that attracts a lot of people from Kenya, Congo, these places in Africa that are placed in high elevation. And that means that these people, when they're running, they don't need the same amount of oxygen as someone that lives here in the United States, which means that they're training like twice or three times as hard as someone that's training here. So it's really interesting because a lot of people think it's just going there, running, and maybe walking a bit. I mean, no, like if you're taking that as a competition, and if that's your bread and butter, like it is for a lot of people, that will require much more from you. And becomes a full-time thing. So that's why it's really interesting to see, because you will see actual professionals that does that for a living, you know.
That is super cool, V. That is very interesting. Like I didn't know that, and you're totally right. Like I can imagine that many people that train in high elevations come to the Boston Marathon to try to win the prize or something along those lines. Like I think that's very cool, and yeah, and I think that everyone that's like watching this, guys, just a few things to keep in mind when entering Monday. If you want to see the marathon, wake up early. Period. There's no other way. If you want to see it take place, it's going to start super early. By 10 a.m., it's going to be done. So if you want to see the marathon or see the people arriving, wake up early and go celebrate it with everyone, because I think it's a beautiful thing to do in Boston.
Yeah, it's a contagious energy, and it's super motivational. So if you're having second thoughts with your motivation, if you're wondering why you're here, go there, feel the energy, witness the marathon, come back and let us know how you feel. I hope that changes something.
I think that definitely will be. I think that definitely will. But yeah, guys. So before we leave, definitely please go watch. Not go watch. Sorry. Please participate in the photo contest, guys. It's gonna be a super fun contest. Anyone can participate. You guys just have to send us one picture of the Boston Marathon or anything that you feel like represents the essence of the Boston Marathon, and then we're gonna do a voting session, and the best winner is gonna get a gift card. So by all means, go participate in that. In the contest, is gonna be super fun. And if you do participate, comment it in this video below, because that will probably give you better chances to win. 100%. You have it on video now. So if you do comment below in this video and you do submit a picture, you're gonna have better chances to win.
That's no joke. That's very true. I mean, like, we kind of gave all the cheat sheets here, like all the instructions of capturing the perfect marathon, or however you see it. So yes, do watch, participate. Let's get engaged. Let's get together and learn together about these things, because it is interesting, and that's what makes a difference. Not only living that experience, but like living your overall experience here in the United States. Those things will add value to your life. So they're worth it, guys. They really are.
They really are, guys. So without further ado, as we usually say, we're gonna be wrapping up this podcast, guys. But thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for tuning into Approaching Your Future with your hosts Danna and Victor, where we discuss different cultural aspects of life in the United States. And we will be back next Friday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. Follow us on Instagram, approach_USA. Check out the calendar for all the new activities and participate in the photo contest, because it's going to be super fun.
Yes. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. And have a great weekend. Enjoy the long weekend and enjoy life, guys. That's a beautiful day outside. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. So don't stay in, stay out, okay?
Go have fun, guys. Yeah, go have fun, guys. Stay in, stay out. I mean, oh my God. Stay out. As Victor said.
Stay everywhere.
Stay in the marathon.